Good morning and welcome. This is Sunrise Daily. Here in Lagos, I'm Ayo Makinde.
And from Abuja, well, the sun rose in a very interesting fashion this morning. Good morning, I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
You know, Maokwe, what you just said about the sun just brought Majek Fachek's music to my mind. The sky looks misty and cloudy. Looks like it's gonna rain today or something like that. But you know, most times once it rains, the natural thing that you find is that there will be puddles of water here and there. And what does that lead to? It leads to vulnerabilities, you know, to malaria. Of course, you saw that report by Kayla, and a few things came to my mind. Number one, we have had so many malaria elimination programs in this country. As a matter of fact, last time I checked, I found out the first plan to eradicate malaria in Nigeria was initiated in 1948. And there are countries in Africa that have never had a case of malaria or, you know, mitigated it within a very short time. And there are countries, that's just recently, I think it was Algeria, you know, had the malaria elimination certification from the World Health Organization. And if we are to go by the plans that we have now, what exactly needs to be done? The plan is there. It's quite elaborate. The question is, how are we carrying people along? How are we messaging? How is the messaging going in order for people to be able to embrace, you know, the issues? I mean, look at this environment, for instance. Yes, we definitely, people have a role to play in this matter. But for God's sake, what are we saying to people about their own vulnerabilities that they initiated themselves because of the way we live our lives, the things that we do, and stuff like that? Well, so yes, there is that National Malaria Elimination or Eradication Plan. Question is, how are we playing it out? It's not the first we have. The current one, I think, is from 2017 to 2020. Well, the last one. And then we have come up with another one that, you know, will take us to maybe 2022 or 2023. It's supposed to be in phases, yes, granted. But how quickly are people buying into this? There's a particular community, we had this conversation yesterday. There's a particular community in Rivers State, Bonny Island in particular, and some of the specialists tell us that for every hospitalization, 5 hospitalizations, 4 of them are likely to be for malaria. And we're told that about 70% or thereabout of every hospitalization in that community is for malaria. We also saw in that report that 60% of hospital outpatient visits to every hospital in Nigeria is for malaria. And the question we're asking here is, for God's sake, what are we doing to bring this down? And you also heard a specialist say there that one way or the other, poverty plays a role in this. And with Nigeria having such humongous poverty figures, is there really an end in sight to ending malaria? Is there really an end in sight for malaria in this country? What is government doing? What are people supposed to do? What are the various levels of governments doing? And what kind of communication are we giving to people for them to be able to take ownership of this process? Big questions, wouldn't you say, Mokwe?
Well, I did tell you that the sun rose in an interesting fashion, you know, over the Federal Capital Territory this morning. One of the things I like to do when I'm on my way to work is observe the sun. And this morning, it had a bit of a veiled covering over it. Shortly after, it rose gloriously over that veil. And then, much later again, another veil came around it, but it did look like it was going to be a temporary one, because eventually we all know that the sun will rise. In any case, it still managed to shine through the veil. So let's just say that we cannot lose hope over whether or not we will be able to eradicate malaria, even though many times we keep on asking, you know, what will it take for us to do it? After all, there have been countries that have done it, and that's the reason why we have a plan. Just a few days ago, I saw it on the news that, malaria vaccine trials are in the last stages. And then a lot of people are wondering, what took so long? If COVID-19 vaccine could be out in no time, why is it that, you know, a disease as prevalent as malaria doesn't have a vaccine? But, you know, the rollout of that one is going to cost, of course, billions of naira, as you would imagine. But nonetheless, it is some hope. So there is hope on the horizon that if, you know, we're not able to do what it is we need to do right now, such as clear the drains, simple acts, really. Clear the drains and ensure that, you know, wastage bins are properly stored, our dumps are, you know, treated properly as they ought to be, that we're able to eradicate poverty and enlighten our population more. If we're not able to do that, at least perhaps we'll be able to get out the message of vaccines and perhaps eradicate it the same way we've been able to eradicate polio through the help of vaccines. We never can tell. Nonetheless, it is hope. But another thing I noticed on my way to work this morning was just how even inside Abuja itself, you know, the Federal Capital Territory, you know, the dirt around the city is amazing. It is very worrisome. You know, you have to ask, what is going on? If inside of the city looks like this, it's no wonder that the area councils are not looking, you know, they're not looking any different. At the end of the day, it all boils down to governance. It boils down to leadership, because one would have thought that this place will be the model of what it should look like in the States. And that when we can get the area councils working here to provide the basics such as sanitation, education, and water, that we will be able to send that message. It will be able to trickle down to the States. Sadly, it's not the case, and that's the reason why you have seen what is going on in Kado. At least there are people who are saying there's something we can do, we can test and we can treat. That's our area of specialization. They're not just sitting and folding their hands. But beyond that, I'm hoping that the people who are responsible, who should be responsible for sanitation and ensuring that they're able to mobilize the populace to ensure cleanliness and advise and enlighten the people that these are the kind of things that causes problems, health problems at the end of the day, would not just sit on their bum and do nothing and watch a report and think, oh, good, kudos to those people that are doing the testing, and not fulfill their own parts of the bargain. I'm hoping that those who are responsible for cleanliness within the Federal Capital Territory will do their work and ensure that we have a city, a Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria, which represents who we truly are. Ayo.
Well, we could go on and on, but I guess the message is out there. Government does have their roles to play at the various levels, as we have said, but then hopefully we'll be able to take on our own responsibilities as well. Well, let's switch to the papers now and look at what the papers are saying about the issues arising in the country. Well, let's begin with the Vanguard newspaper this morning, and the Vanguard is prioritizing security, or a lack of it. Insecurity. Southeast governors Ohanaeze aligned with Southwest. And here are the riders. OK, State Police and Security Network, ban on open grazing. Ask Attorneys General to amend existing law, mandate Ohanaeze to raise reconciliation and welfare communities. Gunmen kill 8 security operatives in Rivers. Oh my God. Police hot on heels of killers. APC condemns killing of security men. Fish out perpetrators. Wike tasks security agencies. Attackers of Uzodinma's country home threaten Nigeria's existence. That's according to the governors. Seek help from Europe, America. PDP counsels Buhari. That story you'll find on page 5 of the paper this morning. And of course, you see in that box, companies beat COVID-19 impact post 11.47 trillion naira 2020 revenue. A few riders there. Pre-tax profit up 32.4%. Health, insurance, agri sectors more resilient. Oil and gas, transport and aviation, real estate, worst hits. That's what you have on the front page right there. And right under the main story, killing of abducted students. Wake up. ASU, NAPTAN, NUT, tell FG. And the parents are also saying, support us to rescue our children. Right under that one, you see another story of depressing news. Doctor killed in Kaduna Church. 8 communities in Niger sacked. And the story you'll find on page 6. I don't know. Okay, that's it for the Vanguard newspaper today.
Well, Daily Trust has this one. Thousands flee homes as Boko Haram holds Gaydam. That's what they have on the front page. Well, Yobe had been quiet for a while, and perhaps this is sprung up out of the blues, but some will also say maybe no surprises here. But look at this. Family of 11 die in crossfire. Buni in Abuja meets CDS. It's been here for a while, though. Insurgents slaughter teacher. One other. Military base raised in Mainok. It's a page 5 read for you. Very worrisome indeed. Look at the bottom here. IPOB. Gunmen killed 2 soldiers, 3 policemen in Rivers. A number of other stories at the bottom. Southeast governors order Ohaneze to raise committee over unfair treatment of Igbo. On the top of the lead story, Nigeria requires 1.89 trillion naira to fight malaria. That's also there. PDP kicks as APC claims registering 2.5 million in Lagos. Well, the politicking has started, is in full swing, but insecurity seems to be overshadowing it. Maybe that's a pointer to the politicians that they need to face the problem at hand first before the politics of the day. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust.
Look at the Nigerian Tribune now, and it leads also with that insecurity story. Gunmen run riot in Kaduna, Rivers, Oyo. Attack church, kill medical doctor. Abduct 4, kill another 7 in Kaduna. Abduct hotelier, wife, 3 children, 4 others in Oyo. 8 security operatives killed, feared killed at checkpoints in Rivers. Criminality being taken to reckless heights. That's ascribed to governors. Find that story on pages 2 and 3. That picture is a campaign by a former member of the House of Representatives about zero malaria, just to mark the World Malaria Day. It's a malaria awareness walk. And right under that one, Nigeria needs 1.89 trillion naira to eradicate malaria, says federal government. 700,000 people diagnosed annually with malaria in Lagos. That's according to a study. And we were told over the weekend that the Federal Ministry of Health considers Lagos its star state in the combat, in the fight against malaria. How that is going on, you may want to find out on the inside pages. Page 8 to be precise. Malaria vaccines with 77% effectiveness hailed as potential breakthrough. Find that story, as I said, on page 8. Among other stories, right under the nameplate, FG's loans. States need 3 times current IGR to offset debt burden. That's according to a report. Find that story on page 7. This is at a time when the CBN is saying maybe we should begin to collect the monies owed by the states back. The details you find on the inside pages. Right above the nameplate, COVID-19, Nigeria maintains 7-day quarantine policy as UK bans flight from India. And guess what? Germany goes into lockdown. Find that story on page 8 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Okay.
Well, there are definitely questions to ask as to whether or not we're going to do the same thing to passengers who are coming in from India, because right now there is some scare around the variant of COVID-19 that is prevalent in India. Look at what is on the front page of the Abuja Inquirer. It's about COVID-19. Donors fail to redeem pledges 1 year after. Well, you might want to know what that is about. Donors failing to redeem their pledge. Why pledge if you know you have no intention of fulfilling it? Well, maybe also the system is also making them reluctant. The system of accountability but there have been questions in recent times around transparency and accounted for COVID-19 funds. Look at what's here. 27,000 refugees, 800,000 IDPs in Benue or Tom laments. That's also on the front page. And they also have the story on insecurity written on a red background. Bloody weekend across Nigeria. Military, police suffer losses. Bandits attack church in Kaduna, kill 6. That's also there. A number of other stories which is just beneath the nameplate. Look at this one. 2021 UTME registration. JAMB introduces new rules. So if you're a student and you're wondering just what the new rule is, you might want to flip to page 9 of the Abuja Inquirer to find out just what that is. Let's leave it there for the paper.
And flip to the Leadership newspaper, which, of course, led with the same thing as the Abuja Inquirer. 7 years after launch, no, it's different, beg your pardon. 7 years after launch, states yet to get $30 million Safe School Fund. Stories on page 4. You now wonder, okay, is there a nexus here between insecurity or attack on schools and this one? The details are on page 4. Fund was meant to help secure schools. SERAP demands probe as FG, CBN, EFCC keep mum. Katsina government deploys local dogs in schools. Find the story on the page 4 of the paper this morning. Nigerians query government readiness for health emergencies. Fault poor management of COVID-19 funds. This should be a little worrisome given the fact that we've dealt with COVID-19 a little over a year now, and one of the things that we found out clearly is that we have very, very, very poor health infrastructure. So what are we doing about it? The details you'll find on the inside pages, along with those 3 stories there, all concerning insecurity and road crashes, according to the FRSC. That's the Leadership newspaper this morning.
New Telegraph, they have this one. Motor vehicle insurance. Nigerians lose out on third-party benefits as 5,000 naira covers auto repairs, hospital bills and losses to the tune of 2 million naira. Well, you might want to know just what that story is about, as many cars on the roads only have what they call third-party insurance, and oftentimes you get that when you do your roadworthiness and what have you. You renew your particulars. The particulars these days sometimes are on ending. You don't even know which one is which. Just pay an agency and get all the particulars. And when they ask you, you bring out the particulars and you show them. And that's that. But this story looks like it could have some implication if you do have an accident on the roads, if you only have a third-party insurance. So you might want to take a second look at it. It's on page 3 of the paper. Bandits evade Kaduna Church, kill medical doctor, 8 others, abduct scores, hoodlums kill ASP, injure 3 policemen in Adamawa. That's also on the front page as well. Federal government rejects World Bank survey on Nigeria's power situation, queries data released by lenders. That's also there on the front page for you. Uzodinma, you've no monopoly of violence. Governors tell attackers. Oh, that is, I think I read that a little too fast. Uzodinma, that's the attack that happened on the governor of Imo State, his country home. Apparently, this is something from the governors. You've no monopoly of violence, governors tell attackers. Senator Kalu Ohaneze flay attack will be back. That's according to the gunmen. That's also there. Ibubeago, Southeast governors, leaders, direct lawmakers to amend state laws. That's also there. ICPC recovers 1.1 billion naira in first quarter of the year 2021 to focus on FIRS and customs. So, to be forewarned, they say, is to be forearmed. Let's leave it there for New Telegraph.
Nigerian News Direct has this one right on its front page. 1.23 trillion naira bad loans bane of Nigerian economy, right there on the front page. Analysts are saying that as oil and gas, construction, information, communication, general commerce contribute 754.1 billion naira. And LCCI says government must create conducive business environment to curb raising bad loans. That's the lead of the Nigerian News Direct this morning, and so many other stories calling for attention. Insecurity, Southeast Governors Forum calls for state police, and RMAFC reviews emoluments of political judiciary office holders. That's according to the chairman of the board. Then you want to find out, so the review, upward or downward? I guess we'll wait to see. Greenfield students probe missing $30 million Safe School Fund. Serap tells Buhari. That's the front page of the Nigerian News Direct this morning.
Guardian for you. Deadly Sunday as gunmen run amok in Kaduna Rivers, Borno. That's what the Guardian has on the front page. How gunmen killed 8 security operatives in Rivers checkpoints. Can El Rufai react to bandit attack on Kaduna Church? Boko Haram invades army base in Borno. Gunmen abduct 35 overrun communities in Niger. And policemen operate on Mufti over harvest of attacks in Imo. Southeast governors, leaders seek restructuring to solve security challenges. That's all on the front page of The Guardian. Your writers to that story. Deadly Sunday as gunmen run amok in Kaduna Rivers, Borno. Conglomerates reel under high costs, poor infrastructure. Operators seek incentives to avert job loss. We need indigenous firms in the sector, not foreigners. That's a quote. You might want to find out who's speaking on page 2. A number of stories just beneath the nameplate. Nigeria ranks 43rd nation with prohibitive data charges globally. It's a page 3 read. Presidency now employer, defender of terrorists, bandits, says Fayose. That's also there. And Boa denies cement price hike, accuses retailers of exploiting loopholes. It's a page 3 read. And the last one, 9 wedding guests die in Edo auto crash. So, page 12 read. Let's leave it there for The Guardian.
Well, so many things always begging attention. But that's the papers this morning. We're back to take on the issues for the day. Do stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. Most certainly, of course, the most prominent issue still remains security. And, you know, Chamberlain, I don't know for how long we're going to do this.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Good morning. I mean, it's something that you just thought that by now the authorities will have a lead on some of these things in terms of, first there's an argument about who did what, which group is responsible. And then, okay, look, if there's been arrest, or has there been any arrest, where are we on all of this? Why do they keep happening? And then time and again, you think you hear assurances that it won't happen again, but you just keep seeing it.
These things have been moving, you know, it would seem like it's just crawling all over the nation. Northeast since 2009, and of course spread back and forth, and then now, remember what the Southeast Governors Forum chairman said, that some people are trying to stir war in the Southeast, and with all of the attention in the Southeast now and this thing that happened in Owerri, I'm wondering, what's going on?
Well, the governors, the NGF, now, this is upon us. I mean, yeah, you have one form of policing of the other than the Nigerian police force. So how come they still haven't thought it, you know, to say, look, where do we go from here? In terms of what structure do we need, what do we need to change? And then, look, that's if they are all not on the same page. And are they still not on the same page? If not, why are they not all on the same page on this kind of thing? So many questions.
Well, the Owerri incident is definitely giving everyone sleepless nights, and for which reason the governors have, the Nigerian Governors Forum, you know, have many sleeping. But let's listen to Eitope Kute, who is a correspondent in Owerri. Good morning, Eitope. I mean, We've seen the news, but what's the latest?
Yeah, good morning, Ayo. Well, right now it's calm in Owerri, the Imo State capital, as people are going about their normal activities, even though yesterday there were rumors in some places that the House of Assembly was under attack, which was later debunked by the Nigerian police force here in Owerri. But same yesterday night, there was a series of gunshots, sporadic gunshots around Oji area of Owerri here, where armed robbers struck and attacked some motorists. So presently, that's the latest. That's the latest we've seen in the security challenges in this area. But you know, just like it's been in the news, a few days ago, on Saturday morning, the country home of Governor Hope Uzodinma was attacked by gunmen, even though it was repelled by security operatives there, which led to the death of three security operatives. Some parts of the house was touched there. So we're still trying to go around this morning to see what security agencies will have to say about all these things.
Well, so that is, for at least for one, we can say that that is what we have for now. But when you say people have begun to go back to their normal duties, can people really just go back that easily? I mean, I'm wondering, I'm wondering, you know, what kind of security apparatus has been put in place that can give people rest in their hearts that, okay, we're going to be safe if we go out?
Okay, you know, definitely, even in war zones, even in war countries, economic activities must go on. People must go about their normal lives. Students must, like now in Owerri today, in Imo State today, most of the schools resumed, the secondary and primary schools resumed. So students resumed today. People are opening their shops. They're going about their normal activities. Even though the state government already told the people to become and go about their lawful activities. But, you know, okay, in several groups, several social media platforms I belong, you see people trying to caution everybody when you're going through this place, please make sure you go with your ID card, make sure you're vigilant, make sure you're this, life has to go on, but make sure when you go through here, you pass through here. And security, like most of the roads in Owerri, the Imo State capital, we have security checks, you know, barricade some places. So security operatives are also on ground trying to trying to prevent any further attack. But like I said, life will have to go on. People are going about their normal activity, even though there's still fear around. The people are still a little bit scared, you know, but they're still very careful and they're going about their normal business activities.
Well, we understand that, in fact, were there any sporadic shootings later in the evening? And then secondly, which police authorities are addressing the state about it? Because some suggest that perhaps from Abuja, that's where they've taken over. Or is the State Police Command going to address the citizens or give some sort of information moving forward?
Okay, like I said earlier, these are what happened yesterday night. At about 8 p.m., there were rumors that the House of Assembly was under attack by gunmen and set ablaze. But when we tried to investigate and go around the place, we saw that it was a rumor, and even the police command debunked it yesterday. But few minutes later, there was sporadic gunshots around Oji area, Okigwe Road, Oji area here in Owerri, where armed robbers attacked some motorists, shot sporadically in the air, and it caused panic in that area. But we learned that later security operatives were drafted to the area to maintain calm. But even though some people, we've not been able to get the actual number of people that were sustained gunshot injuries. But the police public relations officer, Orlando Ikoku, who I spoke to yesterday night, said some who sustained injury have been taken to the nearest hospital for treatment. We're still waiting, like you said about who is briefing, we're still waiting for the police command this morning to tell us something about what happened, more about what happened yesterday night, the measures they're putting in place, and what and what not to do at this time, where to go, areas residents can pass and all. And, talking about the Abuja, for now, what happened on Saturday, there's been a joint operation of security operatives in Imo State, right from when government attacked Olu, few months ago. So there's been a joint military and security operations here in Imo State. So I think that was what also took place at Awomama on Saturday. But we're still trying to get more facts and more information from the police command down here in Owerri.
Well, we have heard, there's a lot of talk about, the involvement of IPOB or no IPOB. We heard what the former IGP said. We've heard what the allegations, by, so many people. And, of course, the position of the chairman of the Southeast governor. So I'm wondering, what's the latest about, the IPOB end of this conversation so far? What are the people saying? Because it will seem like on the one hand, government is saying this. What are the people saying about that?
Okay, first, when the former IGP came to Owerri a few weeks ago during the first attack, the attack on the correctional center and the Imo State Police Command, he attributed that attack to the members of ESN of the IPOB, But also, a few days later, the state government says the attack was masterminded by some politicians in the state. But the thing is, Imo indigents are not when the security operators are saying this, then other people are saying so. And for the fact that IPOB has already come out plain to say they are also not behind these attacks. So I think basically the onus lies on the state government and the security operatives to tell us those people behind these numerous attacks in the state. Because, between January and April, there have been several attacks on police formations. There have been several attacks on government facilities, and just the recent one on the governor's country home. So I think the security operatives will have to tell us those people behind it. And like what happened on Saturday when Ikonso commander, one of the leaders of ESN was killed. And from a statement by the security operatives, they said he was one of the people behind the attack on the Nigeria Correctional Center and the Nigerian Police Force. But for the people, everybody have their own thoughts. They have their own. Well, it's not been something that it's what they are saying is what they know or what they hear from the state government or from the police.
Well then, Hitokokute, we have to thank you very much, and please, you have to keep safe as we await so many other things that you give us, especially updates on this matter. Thank you so much for the report. Yes.
Well, you're always going to have a lot more on this matters in the days ahead. Several meetings going on, but hopefully people just want solutions to all of this. Well, we've got two gentlemen joining us now. We've got Catch Ononju, who is in Owerri. And then we're also going to toss to Abuja. But let's try out with Catch. If we do have him ready, he is also in Owerri at the moment. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. But just give us your impression of what is going on right now in Owerri, especially in the light of all that you had over the weekend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Right now in Owerri, everybody is actually watching and praying that those who are responsible for staging these attacks across the southeast should please stop. Now that the British government has made that very important decision, we are aware that it was due to the British government's intended decision on Nigeria that we have had this cascade of violence across the southeast, which I believe were primarily sponsored to paint the IPOB as a terrorist organization. The IPOB intelligently has also stayed away from being part of any terrorism, like you heard the Imo State governor said, no, it's not the IPOB. Like you heard the former IG said, it is the IPOB, simply laying that strategy of trying to foment various forms of violence across the southeast to actually paint them as coming from the IPOB. Now that the British government has made that important decision, I believe we should all stop the violence and then get ready for renegotiating Nigeria. It is inevitable, that's what we're going to do. And since the British have said that they are giving asylum to all those who disagree with the Nigerian government as presently constituted, the Nigerian government should understand it is not time to stop all fifth columnist violences. The IPOB should also maintain who they are and never, ever get into armed struggle so that we can resolve this Nigerian problem on the negotiation table now that we have both the Southwest and other parts of Nigeria, including the Middle Belt, and even most people in the far north, angling that we're in a negotiated country that's inclusive of the aspirations of all nationalities, not just the Fulani, as the federal government seems to want to promote. I think they should understand now that that strategy they are pursuing is honestly unsustainable, and listen to the British somersault and start to prepare to renegotiate Nigeria.
It appears there's a lot going on behind the scenes that many will understand given how some of these things are playing out. But first, I mean, when the governor did say these are not IPOB members, it's some politicians who are trying to foment trouble. Then the former IGP says it is IPOB. And then this decision from Britain comes through. And then yesterday, the army comes up with statements that they've killed certain commanders in IPOB. So you then wonder, who then is responsible for this?
It is the same people that had the capability of instructing a stand down. Because when this crisis started, we were watching, and somebody asked me what's going on. I said, no, let's watch. Very soon they will sleep. And then they had the show in Owerri, and it lasted for over 3 hours. And then the army and the police observed the stand down. I told myself, the only people who have the sophistry to instruct that stand down by the army and police as the terrorists operated for over 3 hours in Owerri are only people within government. When the IG now slipped his mistake, calling IPOB, I called my people in the UK and in America. They said yes, that the British government is about to make a very, very important decision in regard to Nigeria. And he thinks that is the reason why fifth columnists are trying to play up violence across Nigeria so that they could use that to do arguments. But when they were not able to sway the British government with that staged violence, the British government mentioned the issue of asylum. And I believe what everybody should get ready for is get ready to renegotiate Nigeria. British, who actually did this contraption, have finally agreed that it is not working, and they are now willing to be middlemen, and they will provide asylum for those who disagree with the current government and their ways, and then so that when the time comes for negotiation, they will play a very important part. So I believe, based on this British pronunciation, those fifth columnists who are busy calibrating this cascade of violence across the East across the country should stop. It's over. The British understood. People outside understand what's going on. I know and I agree with the Imo State government. It is not the IPOB that are responsible for the violence. The people are simply trying to kill those boys and then try to paint stories, but we have passed that stage. We're no more listening to such things. We want the government to get ready to renegotiate Nigeria and try living up with evolving power to some other people and not putting power in a tribal union, which, as you've seen right now, is not sustainable.
When you say staged violence, just what do you mean, Mr. Onanuju?
Staged violence, for violence to occur across the East, and nobody has been able to tell us this is who it is. And then it comes to Owerri, and they were able to dance for 3.5 hours, and the army or the police didn't react. That means whoever has the sophistry to instruct that stand down is the person that is staging the violence across the East. And this violence has been staged specifically to paint the picture that the IPOB are violent. And they are also smart. They've stayed away from violence so that they do not undermine the judgment of our international partners. So I think I'm very happy for what we are seeing. And I am urging everybody, including those on the part of the government and the fifth columnists who are staging this violence, to please stop. The calibration of violence will not get us anywhere. Nobody in the East is that frightened, because I believe if the IPOB transmutes into an Nkoto Wesizwe, we would know. They've not yet done that. It is the government.
Yeah, the different states. Oh dear, I hope it's not signal, it's not frozen on us, but we'll just try that. Because I mean, they've come up with, the Southeast governors met and came up with a security outfit, which is expected to at least put a stop, stem this tide. We have also seen different regions coming up with their own approach to ensure that these things don't go on. Why do you think that these agencies or these security outfits are not able to stem the tide?
It is simply because, yes, there have been public declaration of intention by the governors in the Southwest and also in the Southeast. But these governors do not control security per se. Security is in the center, in the hands of the federal government. And we have suspicions that the federal government is in bed with those who are responsible for the insecurity. That's why you cannot stop. So when you see the Fulani commit acts of violence against Nigerians, you go to complain, and then the federal government gives instruction that they should not be touched. They are bandits. They are not terrorists. And what do you expect? You have seen the issue of Pantami. Pantami is a metaphor for where we are right now. Those people who have been propagating fundamentalist, violent strategies are now inside the inner recesses of government in Nigeria. That is the metaphor that Pantami brings. And as far as I'm concerned, we have seen it. Nobody's going to tell us anything new. And we have drawn our own conclusions. The federal government, by harboring Pantami, harbors violence. We are now begging the federal government, please respect the voice of the British and stop those people who are staging this violence across the country. Stop them. And wherever you please, instruct your army and the police to please react whenever these people bring violence anywhere, like they did in Owerri for 3 hours and they didn't react. Please tell the police and army to react to save the people.
Well, one wonders the thinking of security agencies on all of these matters, but we also do have a former security operative who is in Abuja. Markwe?
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. We have with us Mr. James Van der Van, who is a former Chief Superintendent of Police. Mr. Van der Van, you're welcome to Sunrise City this morning.
Thank you, Marwa.
Pretty grievous allegations being given there by Mr. Catch Onanuju. He talks about fifth columnists, perhaps within, I yet to get that very clearly, but he seems to suggest that they are fifth columnists within the security organizations, and they are the ones perpetrating the violence that we have seen in the Southeast, and that's the reason why it would seem that it is out of control. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I totally disagree with that, because if you look at the institutional arrangement in the country today, the only sector that is working very well is the security sector of this country, followed by the educational sector. There's nothing like the fifth columnists within the security agencies that can perpetrate trouble. What are they going to gain? When the chiefs are down, these are the same people that you are calling to go at the war front or go to where the insurgents are to make sure that you suppress whatever is there so that citizenry can be able to walk freely on the streets and then sleep well. If you look at what happens in the Southeast today, and all those who have been arrested the past weeks and those who were attacking the same institutions that is talking about the fifth columnist are those who are civilians. And from the arrest and preliminary investigations that has been conducted, they are all linked to IPOB. There's no two ways about that. The issue in Nigeria is that it is so strange that in each region, leaders choose to now speak to support those who are perpetrating violence, instead of giving credit to security agencies who are putting their lives on the lines every day to make sure that there's a kind of stability and freedom to move about and do whatever you feel you can do. When you are giving this kind of support to these boys, you are increasing their confidence and their wisdom to do most of these things, because once they're arrested, the same elders will come back to make sure that they suppress whatever is supposed to be done. And that is why you see these attacks are perpetrated and are ongoing in all the regions that you can see. If you go to Benue State today, it's the same story, that you have a lot of attacks, and that is where if you have a leader like the governor of Benue State, you discover that we would have not been where we are today. When leaders choose to protect those who are perpetrating crime, and then you call names or the fifth columnist, for me it is not the best, because you are rather making the agencies to now have a lower morale or making sure they confront most of these things. Most people who say these things have never been faced with a gun pointed at them. And
but there are huge questions on almost every corner.
Yes.
So, for instance, he made reference to the fact that, some security agencies were told to stand down. There have been questions as to how can the attacks that were perpetrated in Imo, where, a correctional facility was attacked in the way that it was attacked, the headquarters of the police was also attacked in Imo. There have been questions as to whether or not there was no intelligence before that time, whether or not, people did not see people coming en masse to such an area and alert people at the headquarters. Big questions around what is going on. But then the politicians came up and said, no, it is not IPOB, it is politicians who are perpetrating this. But they told us that 50 people have been arrested. I'll, ask you what your thoughts are so you can help us make sense of all of this when we come back from this break.
All right.
Please stay with us. Well, Mr. James Van der Van is still with us here in our studios. He's a former Chief Superintendent of Police. Just before we went on break, you said you didn't agree with Mr. Ononuji's statements that the people who have been arrested so far have been linked with IPOB. However, we also heard the governor come out to say that the people who are perpetrating the crime, or who perpetrated the crime, were politicians. He still reiterated it just on Friday when he came to see the president while addressing State House correspondents, saying that politicians are behind this. And he said it with so much authority that people were sure that he knew the people or knows their names, because he also said he doesn't know why the security agencies are reluctant to release the names of these people who are committing these crimes. I mean, on Saturday, we now saw an attack on his own home, on his country home, on his personal property as well. I don't know. Is it possible that the people he's defending would also descend on him? What precisely is the issue here? Well,
the governor of Imo State is the chief security officer of Imo State. He has intelligence at his disposal, more than what we have in the studio here. And if he's claiming that it's the politicians that are perpetrating these attacks in Imo, I expect him to turn over that list on that day to the president or hand it over to the Inspector General of Police. But unfortunately, these are all stories that most of these governors will say somewhere and allow people to believe that these things are done by their opponents or some other
Well, he said that in the villa.
Yes, he said that in the villa when he was talking to the press, not to the president, because that was a closed-door meeting. He didn't speak to the press before the president. He spoke to the press after he met the president. And when you see very serious issues of this nature happening in your state as a chief security officer, I expect him to go and do a petition and report to either the Commissioner of Police in his own state or give it to the Inspector General of Police to now perpetrate, to make sure that these people are arrested. So far, the police, the military have been there, and a lot of arrests has been made. If you look at what happened 4 days ago, they went into where these guys were hiding, and they arrested them and killed some of them. And it was identified that those who lead that operation that resulted into the attack on the correctional center and then the police headquarters in Owerri was one of those leaders that was killed in that operation, and a lot of arms were recovered. These were not politicians, these were miscreants. If we are making this kind of statements because you have political issues in your state and you want to abandon the real issues on ground and then face your opponents, I think we will not get it right. This happens in Borno when the elders came to tell the whole world that they don't want military to come into, when Boko Haram initially came into Borno State. And today, the same thing is happening in the southeast, and then we're still playing politics with it. It is going to consume people within that region, not people outside that region. Because once you are unable to say the truth about what security is in your place, to give correct analysis of how security agencies can be supported in making sure they time these things, it's not going to help any other person in that area.
So you think that the governors are not being honest about what is going on?
Oh, yes, they are not being honest. If you look at what the Kaduna State governor is doing today, he has come out strongly to condemn most of these things, and he has directed that nobody should be involved in negotiating for ransom. Because if you don't have this positional authority of giving directives to what you want your state to be governed, this is the kind of things we keep getting there on a daily basis. It happens in Benue. The governor supported the military to make sure they go in there, to make sure they arrest those who kill the army. Tomorrow, I don't think somebody can be able to do that in that part of the state again. And then if you see what is happening in some other states, the political leaders will come together and tell you.
You just gave, all the states have their own peculiar challenges.
Yes.
In Benue State, you just gave, I don't know the example you're talking about now, where you talked about
there was a situation where soldiers were killed,
yes.
And the governor didn't come out to say they were killed by politicians. He said they were killed by the militants who were operating within that flank. And the army went in and they did a thorough job. Unfortunately, yes, some people die, but that's the consequence of doing this kind of things within your locality. If you are able to understand the implication of taking the lives of those who are coming to protect you, I don't think we should be where we are today. But security agencies have been seen to be people who are rather opposing the use in trying to cause mayhem on their own people. And when they go in there, the same governors will come out to say that, yes, we are killing innocent people.
Well, I remember that the governor of Benue State did come out to, also say that he had given up the local government or the deputy local government area of where the incident occurred.
The deputy local government chairman.
Yes, chairman.
Yes.
Where the incident occurred, where the soldiers were killed. And there were questions as to why the governor has to come out to say that it has been given up. I mean, if somebody has committed a crime, should it be natural that, he should be arrested?
That is what the governor was saying, that he has allowed the security agencies to pick up the man. Because he was inducted.
You didn't need the governor's allowance, is the question.
No, it doesn't need the governor's permission, but that is an appointee of government, and the governor is his own supervisor. So in most cases, when you're arresting that kind of a person, you are supposed to inform the governor, or the governor should be aware. And it is when governors are aware of what you are doing that they can really know you are supporting the sanity within their state. And that's just what the governor did in that kind of instance. But if it is elsewhere, the governor of a state will tell you that my deputy chairman is not involved in this kind of thing, so he shouldn't be touched. And it will go silent. Because you don't have the monopoly just go into certain places and make arrests. Just as the governor of Imo State is telling you that politicians are perpetrating this kind of mayhem in the state. But he has been unable to mention one single name. If you have credible intelligence that these are the men who are doing it, then why not turn them over so that they can be arrested and prosecuted? Because it seems that even the governors themselves are afraid of certain people within their domain that they shouldn't be touched. So rather than speak openly, they speak in a closed vacuum where you can not really attach particular names to anything they're saying. So for me, these are just a political statement that they are making when they really don't have any credible thing to say.
In Kaduna, the situation is a bit different. So the governor has also said that there shall be no negotiations with with kidnappers.
Yes.
But that has come with consequences. Because on Friday night, we were greeted with the very sad news that 3 of the students who were taken from Greenfield University were killed.
Yeah.
It was a very heart-rending moment for a lot of people who heard that story.
It's true.
Well, the question will be, what has the capacity been to rescue the people who have not been able to negotiate? Because we know that before that time, students were taken from the forestry institution in Africa, and we know that of that number, only about 10 of them have been freed so far. We understand that their parents negotiated and were able to get them back. A number of them, a substantial number of those students, are still with the kidnappers. They have not been freed. The same thing with the Greenfield students. They killed 3 of them to send home a message, and now, you know, at least another 30, from what you understand, are still with the kidnappers. Do we really have the capacity? Because we don't seem to have shown that we are able to free these people without the use of, without the payment of ransom.
Well, we have the capacity to rescue most of these kidnapped people. Unfortunately, it is a sad moment for the people of Kaduna State and the parents of the 3 students that were murdered by the kidnappers. But one thing you must know about kidnapping is that it is either you kidnap for ransom or for political reasons, or for whatever other reason that you are attached to it. And what we are having today is purely for financial gains, and that is why they kidnap. And if you continue paying, you are inducing them. It is a hard decision to take, that you don't want to pay ransom for people to be released. But the next thing would have been, Kaduna State government will support the agencies within these areas to make sure that they have not embarked on what is called electronic intelligence and then surveillance, so that you should be able to know from what you are monitoring where these people are, how many of them could be likely be there, and then the number of men that you can move into these kind of areas to do this kind of operations. But where you don't have this electronic intelligence that you can deploy, and you rely solely on human intelligence, you will discover that if you are moving in to do this kind of rescue, you are going into a booby trap. And the most, unfortunately, if you are not careful, you will end up killing those you are going to rescue. And that is why here politicians talk about the insecurity, but they don't do anything to make sure they augment what we have to now improve on the arsenals that we have. It is not just about talking about it, but it's about also taking steps to make sure you do particular things at the right time. This is the modern way of warfare. It is not all this kind of shoot and run that we used to do in the ancient days. We have to look at digital monitoring of people now. We should be looking at how we can deploy drones to make sure they take a look at these things. And then the Air Force is supposed to come in, because every fighter jet has about 15 cameras attached to it. And these cameras and videos are supposed to now give you precise movement of the people that you are going to monitor. But I don't know how Air Force have been unable to make sure they supply most of this intelligence. So back to what you were asking, whether the intelligence is not working. Yes, it's not working, because it is most obvious that the intelligence collaboration in conducting and combating this is not working very well. If it is working, I don't think the insurgents will be having people 300 in one place and then we cannot move in to rescue them.
The question is around capacity.
We have the capacity, because we have the human capacity. We have the weapons that you can move in, but you can't move with particular kind of weapons because you want to rescue particular people. Because if you say you are going in with rocket launchers, you discover that one explosion there can kill a lot of people. So you need a lot of planning, that you are sure of where you are going, the route you will follow, and then the number of men you are going to combat. So we have the capacity. What is needed now is the wisdom on the part of the government to support the military and the police to make sure that they have what it takes to move in fully and do most of these rescue operations.
Let's listen to this track of Governor Samuel Ortom on the security situation in his state.
The action and inaction of government is clearly demonstrating that they have adopted what these people are doing. As far as I'm concerned, Boko Haram, Fulani herdsmen, ISWAP, ISIS, all of them are working towards the same goal in Nigeria. Let nobody deceive me. So that is it. And as long as Nigerians do not take this serious, they started as herdsmen. Then now they are called one bandit. But why are they not being declared terrorists, despite all our previous pleading and appeals and begging that these people should be proscribed, just like it was done to iPod and iPod and Biafra. What is the difference? What have those people done? Have they killed the number of people that these Fulani herdsmen are killing? No. They came in the name of they want to rear their cattle. So they want their cattle to eat grass here and drink water. Now that we have a law that make a provision for ranching, they prohibits open grazing. They now keep their cattle in neighboring states and come here and kill our people without cattle and go back. By the grace of God, God will protect us from these evil men that have come to destroy Nigeria. But the federal government knows them, so the federal government should stop them.
Important statement he made there. I don't know which one was the most important one to you, but I mean, as a journalist, is when he says, you know, Boko Haram and herdsmen and all of those people, they are working for Nigeria. Otherwise, he's wondering why they haven't been declared terrorists.
Yes, he said they are working together. And if they are working together, they are having the same support from the political elite that he expects people to speak out, and people are not speaking out. Now, when you look at, you do analysis of what he has said, it's the same thing we're saying here. Now, if politicians can come out clearly to denounce this kind of things happening in their states, you will not say this. In the whole northern part of the country today, when you look at a state like Jigawa, Jigawa has been very restive, very peaceful, in spite of all the things that we have been seeing. Have you wondered why Jigawa has not been a victim of Boko Haram's series of attacks? It is because at the inception of Boko Haram, they had meetings with most of the political leaders that they wanted to introduce the Sharia caliphate kind of a system in the entire state. And the then governor, when this thing happened, he said no, they were not interested in any other system than what they have. And that is why today Jigawa is the most peaceful state in the whole northern part of the country. Nobody is asking why this has been sustained. But it's because the leadership, the chiefs, the emirs there agreed that they don't want anything that can disturb the peace of the state. And that is why they are where they are today. But all other states that were sleeping are engulfed by this kind of thing. When the governor of Benue State started talking about the ranching of and then restriction of movement of cattle, it was seen as very punitive. But today, the same governors who were opposing have come back to agree that ranching is the best thing, because in this generation, you can't tell me that the nutritional value of a cow that has trekked from Kano to Benue is of the same quality with the one that has been ranched in Benue. It can't be comparable. And if you are looking at the economic benefits of eating the byproducts of the animals we are going to get, like the milk, those in the ranching are going to be more headier than the ones that you are traversing with them inside the bush. So for me, I think even by mayor saying they want ranches, you have not seen any other governor coming out strongly to say this is how we are going to do and this is the way we are going to start it. So it is just a mere pronouncement and politics with security of people, because they live in government houses, they don't know how farmers are going to go through this, they don't know how it takes to lose someone so close to you. You go into a house and they discover that they slaughter 4, 5, 6 members of a family, they wipe it out together. And then someone stays in government house and tells you that, okay, politically we have agreed to do ranching, but no governor has taken steps to do that. So until we are able to look at human lives as more important and superior, and then we take decisive actions as leaders of the states, we will continue to be going through this, and one day none of us will go any other place. As today we are caged in Abuja that you can't go to Calabar Road unless by train.
Let's quickly flip this back to Lagos for Mr. Ononuju's comments. Gentlemen.
Well, yes, Mr. Ononuju, I mean, you heard a lot about what he said. What immediately comes to your mind in terms of, especially when you hear him say, look, some of these governors are not being forthright about what really the problem is in their states?
Yes, I agree that is true. A lot of the governors are afraid of speaking up. You can see, like in the far north, the governors were goaded by Abuja to start to negotiate with terrorists. Governors will be there, terrorists will carry gun. Why? Because the same gang in Abuja seem to support those terrorists who are making trouble across. And that was why they goaded them to go and negotiate. It's not that Zamfara has peace, no. Today, the Hausas still have their Yansakai vigilante in Zamfara, as they do have in Katsina and in Sokoto. So he should understand. The problem is those who are priming and calibrating the violence across Nigeria actually do have the support of Abuja. And that's why if Abuja don't say do this, you won't do nothing. There is nowhere you have peace. There is no peace in Zamfara. I went to Maru. I went to Kwatanakwashi. I also came from Anka the other day. It is not peaceful. Don't paint that picture. The difference right now from before is that the violence has now gone round the whole country and has bettered very well in southern Nigeria as it was then in the north. We have seen that the reasons why nobody is trying to talk is because the governors also can understand what we understand. That for the people to be able to do this and nobody touches them, that means they really must have some kind of sophistry that is only possible from the very highest echelon of governance in Nigeria. That's why the governors are very afraid to speak. But I'm a citizen. I'm not a governor. So I will say the truth that I know. I came to Imo and I saw that all this cascade of violence across eastern Nigeria, nowhere did the government do anything to try to protect the people. And what did I say? That's why I begged them. Please stop this problem. If you were trying to paint the IPOB as a violent organization, well, that has failed. The British government has now gone forward to set that asylum to say, we will give asylum to all who oppose you. We agree Nigeria should sit down and reorganize their country in a way that's inclusive to the aspirations of all. What President Buhari is doing, keeping Pantani being a terrorist mastermind and you being comfortable with that is not sustainable. Please weed out the terrorists who are right there at the top echelon of governance. Let them go away and let us have peace. Nobody can pocket Nigeria because our diversity and the numbers we have, those who make this problem don't have numbers to sustain what they're doing. And that's why I think what they're doing is just nonsense. They should stop the terrorism and let us sit down and renegotiate our country in a very peaceful and inclusive manner. The governors are afraid, yes, because they know that the perpetration of this violence comes from a place where they dare not argue. That's why they're afraid.
Well, the governments that definitely will, I mean, they put up a statement last time out saying he's not a terrorist mastermind, and those sentiments expressed at that time, he has since renounced it, and that they thought that they should let sleeping dogs lie. That's on the one hand. But speaking about governors, we know that people are looking for leadership. We've seen several individuals, as a matter of fact, maybe few, they've come up in different regions in the South, and people took to them because they were looking for leadership. Now, we've just heard the governor of Benue State give his opinion, which he has been doing for a while now. What is wrong with the governors coming together and saying, well, look, this problem, we are the ones who the people have elected, we're feeling the heat in our states, and then they put their foot down saying, this is what we think should happen since we were elected to protect lives and property. If they do that, what would be wrong with it?
You cannot accuse them of not doing that. The governors are doing that. You can see the behavior of Governor Tom. You can see the behavior of the Southeast governors.
Not individually.
The Southwest governors. That shows you the governors truly want to save their people. That the Southeast governors have now mimicked the Southwest governors. That tells you governors want to save their people. But of course, they are afraid. They do not control the security apparatus. They do not have exclusive preserve on violence. It is the federal government that owns that exclusive preserve on violence. And that's why we are all suspicious that why is the federal government allowing this crisis to sustain? I, myself, blame the federal government. Only the federal government could have instructed the stand down in Owerri for the violence to go on for 3 hours. No operation, no reaction from the army, no reaction from the police. And I tell myself, the only organization with that quality of sophistry to command and get and instruct a stand down from the police and army for 3 hours is the federal government.
All right, Mr.
The
Ononju.
British government has gone on to take this decision about asylum. I believe the violence should stop and let them understand nobody can subjugate Nigeria.
All right,
we can sit down and then renegotiate.
We do thank you very much indeed for your perspectives there. Makwe?
Oh, yes, Mr. James is still here with us. I'm just wondering, do you guys definitely, I mean, beg your pardon, you gentlemen definitely have points of agreement in this entire discussion, and which is about politics, even though you might not agree with the type of politics that is being played, because these are lives of people that we are talking about here. But let me quickly ask you, what do you think is the way forward?
Well, the way forward is just as he said, for the governors to come together. Chamberlain suggested it. If governors can come together, they have a very strong meeting. I think it's the strongest court that you have in the country today, the Governors Forum. If all of them make a statement regarding this issue of insecurity and the roadmap they want it taken, I think it will be able to be solved. Because just as he's saying, the body language of the presidency is not too strong to allow certain operations to continue. And
you agree with him on that?
Yes, I do agree with him on that, because where the presidency keeps talking about certain things and then leaving the real issues to be addressed, then you discover that it becomes difficult for even some state governors to act, because the commanders posted to you are not under your control. They are under the control of someone who is calling the shots in Abuja here. That person is posted by the president. So if you have a field commander in your state that cannot take instructions from you, even when killings are going on behind your door, there's nothing you can do as a governor. And that is why they are resorting to self-help today of having their regional securities. But for me, that is also a time bomb. So the only way forward we can have is to have a holistic voice that can be devoid of nepotism, where we can all agree that we have an issue on ground that if we don't do it well, we are going to be like Somalia very soon. Since 1982, Somalia has never had a stable government, and this is the way it started. And today we are looking at these things as something that is affecting particular states based on tribal sentiments. If we don't contain it, it will get to a point where none of us will be safe. So the most important thing is for political leaders to come out and strongly and agree that they need to talk to the president. And then this idea where the chief press secretary to the president is the one addressing the nation on very serious issues of security should stop. It should be a thing where the vice president, even if the president cannot speak now, the vice president can come out to address the nation on most of these issues instead of always saying Garba Shehu and Sani speaking to the people on very serious national issues of this nature. And they were making reference to the presidency. People don't take you serious when such statements are coming from the press secretary, where these statements are not written and signed by the president. So for me, we need a leader that can come out strongly now and condemn most of these killings and give directions. And there was a day when the president came back from his medical trip. What did he say? That the terrorists are taking this thing, they are locked too far, if I quote him correctly. Now, and they shouldn't undermine that we don't have the capacity to now react and eliminate this thing. You don't need to be warning them. The most important thing is to give direct instructions to all the commanders to make sure that they take the battle to the forest where these people are. It shouldn't be a thing of saying they're taking their lock too far. So for me, such statements are the body language that people are referring to, that they are supporting most of these things that are going in the country. So we need a united front, all political leaders, to make sure that the right thing is said and then the right thing is done, and then the right orders are given to the commanders to make sure these things are done the way it should be done. If not, we are not giving credit to what our own security agencies can achieve and can afford.
It's a fine place to leave it. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning, Mr. Van der Fan.
It's a pleasure, Marco. Thank you.
Well, Mr. James Van der Fan is a former Chief Superintendent of Police. That will be it for this segment of Sunrise Daily. We'll be back shortly. Please stay with us.
These are aggrieved parents of the kidnapped students of Greenfield University in Kaduna State. The expressions on their faces is an indication that all isn't well. They are here to discuss ways of ensuring the rescue of their wards from captivity following Tuesday's abduction of 20 of them from the institution. In addition to the 20 students, 3 members of staff were also kidnapped, while another staff member was shot dead during the operation. However, there is a twist in the tale when the bodies of these 3 students were found on Friday, April the 23rd at a village near the school. Mrs. Loretta Tahiru is a mother to one of the abducted students of the university, unable to keep her emotion in check. She describes her condition as devastating, especially as she was with him just hours before the incident.
He returned to the school on Tuesday, only for me to hear on Wednesday that my son has been kidnapped. It is a nightmare. I have not slept. I have not eaten. I'm appealing to the public to assist us. The demand is unbearable. The amount is unthinkable.
Another parent, Marcus Zamai, condemns the kidnap of the innocent students, just as he describes the ransom placed on them as unrealistic.
Look at the type of parents. 800 million is not a joke. If public will not come to our aid, I don't know how we can come out of this.
It's not only the parents of the students that are worried about their present status. The Catholic Archbishop of Kaduna Diocese, Most Reverend Matthew Ndagoso, is also lending his voice to the call for their release.
We can never give up. We must always, we are people of hope. So as we continue to encourage the people never to give up, we also continue to tell the government to do the needful.
The focus on schools as subjects of attacks by bandits is gradually becoming the norm. What these parents and other stakeholders in Kaduna State are saying is that the time has now come for action to ensure that all schools, whether private or public, are adequately secured for the safety of the students and staff.
Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, we've got Dr. Ona Ekomu joining us this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us again today. Well, listening to that report and several reports, and even a month, 2, a year, 3 years back, you just asked several questions, almost the same kind of questions as to why we don't have results on some of these things. And it does appear as though it's a one day, one kidnap story, another narrative. And then for those who just say, look, we are at war, can we fault them?
Good morning, Chamberlain and Mr. Ayo Makinde. No, we can't fault them. We are really at war, unless we don't want to acknowledge the truth. We are at war. It's not a conventional war. Like the Nigeria-Biafra war. It's not a conventional war like that. It's not a conventional war like the Second World War, but we're at war. It's an asymmetrical warfare. The threats live among the population, or in this case, with Kaduna, they are in ungoverned spaces, they are in the bush, and they target those local governments around Rugu Forest there. They target all those local governments, Chikun and what have you. That Chikun is where they took those people from, where they attacked the church yesterday. So, I mean, because we are losing, the other day there was a report that I think 3,000 people had been killed in a year in, I think, Zamfara State in this undeclared warfare. Many wars, like the first Gulf War, they didn't record that many deaths. And that was a full-blown war, state against state, United States and its allies against. I think the problem here is that we are not defining it properly. You know, to solve a problem, you have to first define the problem properly. And when you define that problem properly, then you can now go to the solution. We call that structured argumentation. You must take the problem break it down into its component parts, then solve those little component parts, and then re-aggregate it back such that you have a solution to the issue at hand. And we are not able to do this because I don't know why. We have very bright people in government. Perhaps they are not seeing it that way, or maybe there is no appetite for solving the problems, and so on and so forth. Whatever it is, I'm not sure, but we need to really, whether it's at the federal, whether it's at the state, or whether it's at the local government level, we need to start solving some of these problems so that the system doesn't become overloaded. Because where we are headed right now, we are getting to a point, that's why you see crisis in Zamfara, in the northwest, northeast, north central, south-south, southeast, southwest, you know. So you have crisis all over. And what's going to end up happening is that the system is going to be overloaded and then perhaps lead to an implosion. That is what happens. So the governance is about improving people's lives, solving people's problems. That is why all that power is given to you, whether you go back to Westphalian Treaty or whatever concept, Montesquieu, whatever concept of governance you want to go back to. But let's just take Westphalian Treaty, where the principle of sovereignty was established. So give all this coercive power to some individuals, and they are supposed to maintain that coercive power and serve the populace. And now, when you have things like this happening, the governance doesn't mean you should be so proud and arrogant. Don't ask for people's help. Ask for their help if you need their help.
Well, oh dear, wait.
Hey, enroll them. I think I was talking with Ayo in the tenable and unacceptable.
People need to be alive first before they listen to what anybody else wants to do. Should the narrative now shift to people getting that or their level of security consciousness way higher than they have ever? Corporate organizations, individuals, should they be talking about, gentlemen, wherever you are, whoever you are, begin to think about how you need to protect yourself first? Because now we've seen attacks in churches, people are killed, several are kidnapped. Private schools, people are killed, several people kidnapped, demanding astronomical fees. And the authorities will always say we're on top of it or we're doing what we can. So how seriously should that conversation about people doing what they can within the law to protect themselves be?
Thank you. Well, I don't know whether I'm going to go so far to say protect themselves, but people should be security conscious. Now, security conscious in collaboration with government. That's what the point I was making just then, that government should not feel so proud to come to the people and say, listen, we want to get you involved in the security architecture of the country. Because right now, the government is overwhelmed because all we hear are these warnings, don't you ever try this thing again, don't pay ransom, but if my child is kidnapped, I'm going to pay ransom. I mean, it's as simple as that. You know, I'm going to do whatever I can to get that child released. It doesn't matter what some government official is saying, because it's not his problem, it's my problem at that point in time. So what does that translate into? It means, I think I was telling Mr. Lagvide again, I love Mr. Bakende, I was telling him about TAPIs, terrorist attack precedent indicators. Those are very important. We need to educate our populace. What are these things that they need to look out for that will tell them that the vulnerability is too much, or that there's an impending attack, in fact. Because if you know that there's an impending attack, then you can take steps to protect yourself. You know, so we need to create more of a messaging, more of a narration of security awareness around the country. We need to hear from the authorities. They need to tell us how to protect us. If they attack some top government official, they are already strengthened. They have, they have all kinds of security to protect them. But I don't have that kind of security to protect me as an individual, and so many other Nigerians. The average Nigerian doesn't have that. So we have to depend on public security. So give us the information that will help us
strengthen ourselves such that we can do things for ourselves even before you get to us. Now, let me say this quickly, Chamberlain. Everywhere in the world, the government does not go out to protect everybody. What the government does, the government security forces, what they do is they provide rapid response. So first is that little lady by the window who sees some unusual activity taking place outside that we call the police. So where is the 911 number to call? We don't have it as a national system. So somebody needs to be able to call the police and say, look, I'm seeing some bad guys here. Something needs to be done about this. You know, and that call must be logged at the emergency response center. Now there's an agency in this country, it's called NCC. They are supposed to provide that everywhere. Now I even heard some advert on the news recently from them saying that, oh, they have a 112 number. It's a lie. I have tried it because I've worked with some state governments.
Oh,
no, that network can't pull this on us, but
not now.
We'll get him back definitely. You know, that was I was going to go there because look, for the average person out there, the first thing is, look, if you notice anything, if you see something and you're supposed to say something, if you call any of those numbers, because that's the first line many people will adopt or will try, and then you don't get any response. What can be more frustrating?
I remember that even Lagos State had this special, I think it was 767 or something like that. You know, how effective that is over time, I guess we'll listen to
Yeah, some actually call that and then they get response from 767.
One of the things that's really, really disturbing about all of these things is the question you asked about the people. Yeah. See, many times we wonder, and I think we should even really take this to Dr. when we're able to get him back, because ultimately it is about the people. You know, what we hear when, you know, anything happens, we hear that people are attacking soft targets. For God's sake. Is it that we don't know that they're going to attack the soft targets? You know, we spoke, you know, behind the scene about, and we've even on air, we've spoken so many times about, you know, intelligence gathering and all of that. Question that you want to ask, is it that we do not have the intelligence or we do not act on the intelligence? When we get information, what do we do? Now, we have heard over and over again that, you know, governors get security reports, they have intelligence information, and of course, you know, the assumption then would be there is a veiled knowledge of sorts, even if it's a blatant knowledge, that the attacks on the Owerri facilities, for instance, would happen. What did we do about it? I heard, you know, one of the analysts previously said, you know, maybe, you know, they had the information, but they couldn't really defend themselves because they were overpowered. I thought there was something they call calling for backup. What happened to that? You
know, that's why the comments of Benue State Governor, many will revisit it and ask themselves, wait a minute, so are there points in some of what he said as a result of several other recent events that you've seen happen? So those are the things that lend credence.
You know,
to those comments.
There is this phrase you attribute to me most of the time: shape shifting. You know, but you know that's the thing. I mean, you know, on the one hand, it is this from this region, it moves to that one. It goes by another name. From this region, it moves to another region, goes by another name. All of it is achieving one thing: killing people, causing unrest. You know, so. What is the game plan? I remember once we engaged Mr. Amakri, and I wanted to ask him just before we ran out of time, is there a grand plan here? Someone, I think I even asked him on air, is there some grand plan that people are not aware of, that people ought to be aware of? And when Dr. Ehome is saying that, you know, when you asked about, you know, what should people do to defend themselves, and he is saying that maybe people shouldn't defend themselves, but they should know what to do about security. But the defense chief
what
said
do you do
the
about
defense
security
chief
if it's not about defending yourself?
Come on, the defense chief said, for instance, don't be afraid of the bandits. Okay, so a bandit is coming at me with AK-47 or AK-49. I heard that for the first time on this program. And then all I have is what? Nothing. Not everyone is like that Abuja lawyer that could attack, you know, gunmen with a cutlass. Not everyone has that kind of courage, you know. And for God's sake, even those that is his own compound. What happens if it's a face me, I face you?
Well, look, as it is right now, as the stark reality is that you have to have some sort of courage now to protect yourself and your family. you can't just be a sitting duck and just let these things, just come upon you just like that. In several cases, yes, the elected authorities were supposed to look to them to provide those kind of situations, but you always talk about the trust quotient with security agencies. Can the average person, call those numbers in the event that they go through, and you expect a response in how many minutes or how many hours?
In good enough time. I'm wondering, for instance, what Mapwe would have to say about all of this, because, it would seem like the Federal Capital Territory is like in the middle of the country, and there are a number of states that are having unrests all around the Federal Capital Territory. How soon, God forbid, before it gets into the capital city itself? Abuja has been attacked before. Thankfully, during this administration, I don't think we've had anything like that. But, it's really, really, really troubling what one is hearing. And, Marco, I don't know what your take is on all of this while we wait for Dr. Homo.
Well, if I tell you that, residents that I have spoken with are not apprehensive, I'll be telling you very big lies. I mean, on my other show, the hard copy, which I anchor, I have had cause to speak with guests who are residents of Abuja. And I remember one of them, a former ambassador who served in Ethiopia, also served in Sierra Leone, who says, look, if we're seeing visuals of, bandits, kidnappers, brandishing rocket-propelled grenades right here in Niger State, which is just a neighbor to the Federal Capital Territory. What exactly, who says that what happened in Sierra Leone, where one day, according to him, they woke up one day and the city had been overrun, cannot happen here? Who says that? So the residents who are apprehensive as to what is going on in the Federal Capital Territory. And don't forget that, a few weeks ago, let me say about 2 months ago now, we saw the governor of Nasarawa State come to the villa to complain about terrorists who had overtaken certain roads leading to the Federal Capital Territory. Even though we understood later on, due to phone calls that I made later on, that situation had been handled and they had been pushed back. But there have been incidences where it would seem that, there is encroaching danger into the Federal Capital Territory from the news that we gather from neighboring states. So, these are things that are happening all around us. If Nasarawa is experiencing problems, if Niger State is experiencing issues, and you're seeing, dangerous weapons going around at the end of the day, who says that, we in the Federal Capital Territory can sleep with both eyes closed? It is a very, very worrisome situation, gentlemen. I must let you in on this.
And when some of those government officials make some of those comments, people are quick to criticize them. But sometimes, before we react, maybe constructively criticize, you need to take a step back. When you made reference to what the Minister of Defense talked about people should protect themselves, people need to try and listen to what is he not saying. So if that is in his mindset, his train of thought, something must have triggered it. Remember, he's in government. So they will be doing what they can to protect citizens, which is what they're elected to do, what they're expected to do. So if he then makes that kind of comment, you need to ask yourself, so could it be, of course, there will be several conspiracy theories.
Absolutely.
Could it be that they try what they can and then can't pull it? Or could it be that they don't know how to let Nigerians know, we're doing what we can, we're falling short? Could it be that they don't even know how to reach out to people and let them know, how do we bring you all in to say, look, this is where we are? So there's so many theories out there. But if it then says protect yourselves, you may internalize it whichever way, but importantly, we need to begin to change our mindsets in terms of how we internalize some of these pieces of information out there. You have to be alive first.
Absolutely.
People, states, organizations, communities, they need to begin to think about pulling together. Because pulling together, when they say, 3-4 cord is not easily broken, when you pull together that way, you could even get information that the authorities will require. So that way, there could be that symbiotic relationship between communities, security agencies. After all, you have community policing. They've been talking about it for a while, how they want individuals to be part of it. So It just may be about time. Look at things that you normally overlook. The persons you pass every day on the street, have a second thought. Don't always be in a hurry. We're always rushing somewhere and we say we'll never get there. Take a step back. Security is a big deal now.
Absolutely.
And it should always be.
Well, all we have is news. All people, get is news, is the information that the media puts out. So if the media is replete with news of insecurity, while there are other things in the news, bad loans, killing Nigerian economy, state governments not able to make enough money to take care of themselves, unemployment figures rising, opportunities, that people can take advantage of, and security is the only thing. I'm wondering if there is any other things that one can say. Markwe?
Well, it is the person who's alive who can worry about the economy and worry about, whether inflation is running away or not. The first thing you have to do is be alive. And when you're alive, there is hope. When you talk about defense, the Minister of Defense asking Nigerians to defend themselves. Don't forget that we saw a prime example here in the Federal Capital Territory of a resident doing that. And, I remember how you guys gleefully jumped on that story of a resident who had only a machete and was attacked by people who invaded his home with guns and who was successfully able to chase them out of his house. I want to believe that that's because he's also envisaged such a situation and planned towards it. In case this kind of thing should happen, what will be my first line of defense? What can I do before I even call in the vigilante? And I think that that's one plan that almost every Nigerian must have right now. They mustn't take security for granted.
All right, I think we've got Dr. Ekomo back. So, Dr. Ekomo, unfortunately, the network's not being kind on us this morning. So if you could go ahead and give us your concluding thoughts as we wind down.
Thank you very much, sir. I just want to follow up from what Ms. Markwe was saying a minute ago, that the citizens have a lot of strengths of their own. Citizens should know that we live in very troubled times, and that the government has demonstrated capacity to not be able to take care of our security needs. So we need to help ourselves. And then in doing that, because if my home is safe and my street is safe, my neighborhood is safe, my community is safe, my government is safe, then the state will be safe and ultimately the nation will be safe. So I think that's what we call a scalar model of national security. So I think we need to in a lot of security education. There's a lot of books out there. I wrote a book back in 2009 called Effective Personal and Corporate Security. It's still available, it's still on the market. There are many resources out there about common sense ways that you can protect yourself and protect your family. And then when the threat moves up the ladder to national security threats like these gunmen, for example, if you know that there is a lot of attacks against people traveling on certain stretches, like somebody said a minute ago that we now travel by a train to Kaduna from Abuja, where it's a recognition of the threat level there. And so these are simple ways that we can keep our, like you said, Mr. Chamberlain, we have to be safe first before the country security forces can get to us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Ona Ekomo. Always a pleasure to have you on. We do have responses coming through from you lot. We've got Ikenna who says, look, we need a camera nation. Every state capital and FCT, schools, marketplace, financial districts, public buildings should have cameras installed. Mandate businesses to install. Blame game solved.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Well, one Asian country has done it. Olagunju says, and I think I like this one, says criminals and nomenclature. Why do we have different nomenclature for criminals? Northwest, bandits; Northeast, terrorists; Southeast, militia; Southwest and Benue, herdsmen; South-South, militants; PH, cultists. This condition, our perception in an attempt to define regional identity in partisan and political terms. Markwe?
Well, look at this one from Egosa. Take two now. Decentralizing the police. He says as long as the police is controlled by the IGP in Abuja, all the talk about governors being the chief security officer of the estate is hogwash. The sooner we come to terms with all of this fact, the better for us all. And Victor says Frankenstein will always turn around to attack its creators. What they did not nip in the bud has grown into a huge monster that has spread its arms around the country. And politics will not let our leaders do the proper thing for fear of backlash. Well, that's how we'll have to leave it here, at least from Abuja. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day.
I'm Chamberlain, so we'll see you next time.